A treasure trove of a treasure trove of 50,000 stars. Photograph of the star cluster in Hercules by Mount Wilson Observatory through the 60-inch reflector. The Music of the Spheres. Chapter 1. Behold, the stars. How thrilling to read of great hunts for treasure. Yet the pirates who dug their spades into the earthly loam never catched such jewels as are hidden along the dark slopes of the sky. Armed with a chart of the heavens, the fledgling astronomer prods about in the depths of the gloom, shovels the dark with the aid of his telescope, and discovers, even more surely than the pirate his chest, some wonderful treasure. Sometimes the find is a star-like diamond, a twinkling emerald, a fire-filled ruby, or a cluster of star gems of colorful hues. But it may be, too, a profusion of riches heaped in a magnificence that leaves one breathless. One must know, however, before adventuring along the skyways, just where to look for these starry jewels. The air must also be clear and the eye color true. In the tropics, where the atmosphere is more transparent, the colors seem deeper and more beautiful. This is also true on deserts, on the ocean, or on mountaintops. To those who do not know that stars, even as jewels, have individuality, the various colorings will come as a special surprise. Vega, for instance, is large and most wonderfully blue, rising in the far northeast during the 1st of May. Arcturus, appearing at the same time near the zenith, is tinted like a King Midas's rose. On the 1st of June, Antares glows like a scarlet shaded lamp hung low in the southeast, while in the northwest, creamy-hued Capella scintillates like the electrified cross-section of a rainbow. In the case of a double star where the colors are sharply contrasted, gold and blue or scarlet and green, the effect is startling and very beautiful. Weird-looking purple stars and one lavender ones. One lavender ones may also be found, but all these lovely tints and shades are hidden among the hosts of more common yellow and white stars, and if one does not know just where to find them, it is like hunting for treasure without a chart. When the world was young, people gazed in never-ending wonder as the darkness of the heavens filled up with the lights of stars. According to an old Malayan story, the stars were the children of the Moon Mother, who brought her children out only at night when the jealous sun, who had no children, was far away on the other side of the earth. The ancient Greeks believed that night came because the god of the sun drove his sun chariot along the invisible edge of the western ocean when he returned from the west to the east. All the natural laws of nature were explained in some such naive manner by the ancient peoples. The imagery of the Greeks is especially interesting, for they impress shadowy figures on the very stars. These figures have given names to the constellations or groups of stars. And to the student of nature, the legends of these heroes traced in the sky add to the charm of the stars in the same manner that the delicate aroma of the rose enhances its loveliness. Later, these remarkable people, in trying to account for the fixed and orderly movement of the stars as they slowly passed from east to west, adduced that they must be fastened in crystal spheres which whirled one within the other over and under the motionless disk of the earth. They noted that a few of these luminaries followed a wandering course and so called them planets, which means wandering stars. Since some of these wandering stars moved swiftly and others moved more slowly, they fancied in their beautiful way of explaining things that these different rates of speed must cause a musical tone, as each star rolled upon its crystal, a deep note for the slow bodies and a high note for the swift bodies, and that with the infinite swelling harmony of all the myriad stars, one vast sweeping tone of heavenly music swirled around the spheres. But this music was for the gods, and no mortal could hear it. Our modern music of the spheres is no more audible to our dulled ears than the music of those ancient days, yet its silent song of light and color, its mystic setting of ancient tales, and its wonder background of scientific fact descends in the same sweet way to all hearts lifted to receive it. Yet many people miss all this and only know that the stars are there. It is easy to become acquainted with the more conspicuous of the star designs, which are formed by the brightest stars in a constellation, for these seem to hang down from the dome of heaven like electrically lighted frames. Some of these, such as the W of Cassiopeia, the square of Pegasus, the parallelogram of Orion, the Northern Cross, and the Big Dipper, are not only ornaments in the sky, but serve also as guides to point the way to other constellations. An endeavor has been made to arrange the constellations in this volume in the most easily learned without effort way that could possibly be devised, and to present them in such a manner that the student will go out of doors with a picture of the position of the stars in his mind, so that in more advanced study, sky maps will acquire a new significance. First, the stars in the vicinity of the North Star are discussed. The two starry bears and Draco, the dragon. Then the great sky drama of Perseus and Andromeda, with Cepheus, the king of Ethiopia, Cassiopeia, the queen of the queen, Pegasus, the flying horse, and Cetus, the terrible sea monster. The parade of the zenith constellations, led by Leo, the fierce Nemean lion. The constellations on either side of this interesting spectacle, the four great southern stars, each noted enough to have the stage by itself. And the gorgeous winter program with the brilliant stars of the giant Orion, Taurus, the bull, and Castor and Pollux, the heavenly twins. Whirling about the sun in the same plane as the earth are 7 other planets. These planets resemble stars to the unaided eye, but show a definite disk through the telescope. With but the expenditure of an idle moment now and then, who would not like to learn a few facts about Jupiter, a world with 9 moons, and 1,000 times larger than the Earth? Saturn, a globe surrounded by a magnificent ring and composed of such diaphanous material that it would float on water. Mars, with its mysterious surface markings. Venus, shrouded in the secret of its impenetrable atmosphere. The hundreds of tiny worlds, some but a few miles across, and even the raging sun itself with its hydrogen flames, spots, moving belts, and other idiosyncrasies. These are only suggestions of what may be anticipated in our treasure hunt along the slopes of the sky. But every star that has once been found and called by name will stand forth from the multitude with a magnetic radiance that forever after thrills the discoverer with the pride of achievement. Chapter 2, An Introduction to the Stars. He who knows what sweets and virtues are in the ground, the waters, the planets, the heavens, and how to come at these enchantments is the rich and royal man. Emerson. The dome of the heavens with its constellations of stars turn westward at the rate of about 15 degrees an hour. Thus the stars in unchanging order rise majestically above the horizon in the east, wend their way across the great expanse of sky above our heads, and disappear below the horizon in the west. It is only necessary to note the position of a particularly bright star or a conspicuous constellation lying near the horizon and then return after several hours have elapsed and again note its position in the sky to prove this general movement toward the west. This is an interesting experiment, for it is often a surprise to people to hear that the stars of the heaven are constantly shifting their position throughout the hours. Each star has an individual pathway which describes an arc across the heavens, the exception to this being the circumpolar stars, which describe complete circles around a point north of the zenith. The center indicated by the curved pathways of the stars is called the pole of the heavens, and in the northern hemisphere, this important location is marked by the North Star. The North Star, also called Polaris, or the Pole Star, lies almost directly above the North Pole of the Earth and is located in the sky by the pointers on the bowl of the Big Dipper. Since we cannot realize the whirling of the earth on its axis which causes the heavenly bodies to appear to pass in the opposite direction, it is the same to us as if the axis of the earth continued upward to Polaris, thus causing this star to seem to stand still, while all the other stars in the course of 24 hours seem to whirl in fixed orbits around it. The earth, encircling round the moving sun, seems to give motion to the nearer stars, bending the tracks they trace across the sky. This remarkable performance may be photographed on a clear, moonless night if a camera is properly focused on the North Star and left exposed in that position for 2 or 3 hours. The photograph thus obtained will consist of a series of circular trails around the central star. These are produced by the stars moving slowly over the plate in consequence of their changing positions, just as if the stars, instead of our own little world, had really moved. This is what the ancient peoples believed, and in the words of Aratus, the axis shifts not a whit, but unchanging is forever fixed, and in the midst of it holds the earth in equipoise, and wheels the heavens itself around. Since the stars were always in the same order with reference to one another, it was thought that perhaps these luminaries were the heads of golden nails which made the heavenly dome secure. Thus, through their apparent immovability, they acquired the name of fixed stars, although this fixity has long since been disproved. The stars nearest to the North Star complete their circles above the horizon and are called circumpolar stars. The Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, Draco, and the W of Cassiopeia are star groups which do this for an observer in the north temperate latitudes. If watched throughout the night, any one of these star groups may be seen to complete half of its circle around the North Star, although the other half of the journey would be invisible on account of the daylight. Although the circumpolar stars may be seen to complete their pathways above the horizon, the pathways of all the other stars are completed on the other side of the earth. The greater the distance from the North Star, the larger their arcs above the horizon until the distance of 90 degrees is reached. This greatest curve is shown by the stars which rise almost directly in the east. The stars which rise south of east have only a small portion of their pathways visible. It would seem that since these stars move as a complete unit, the aspect of the star dome would appear the same at the same hour of the night throughout the year. But this is known not to be the case, for in consequence of the Earth's motion around the sun, or the apparent advance of the sun among the stars, the same position of the stars reoccurs 4 minutes earlier each day, and the star groups appear a little farther west at a given hour each evening. They appear at the same time only after the lapse of a year. This is the reason that the dates and hours for the appearance of the different stars are given in the star maps. Since 4 minutes a day total up to 2 hours a month, a star seen to rise at 10 o'clock in one month will be seen to rise at 8 o'clock the next month, and at 6 o'clock the following month, and so on through the daylight at the rate of 2 hours a month, until it has again worked back to a place in the darkness of the evening sky. The number of the stars is beyond determination, but those visible to the unaided eye amount to only a few thousands. Many stars on the borderline of invisibility send us flickering glints of light, although seldom can we clearly see more than 2,000 at one time, and usually many of these are blotted out by the thick veil of atmosphere which surrounds the Earth. Among the exceptionally bright stars which may be seen from the northern hemisphere are Arcturus in Bootes, Aldebaran in Taurus, Altair in Aquila, Betelgeuse in Orion, Capella in Auriga, Procyon in Canis Minor, Deneb in Cygnus, Regulus in Leo, Vega in Lyra, Antares in Scorpio, Rigel in Orion, Sirius in Canis Major, Spica in Virgo, Fomalhaut in Pisces Australis. Yet even these cannot be seen at the same time, but must be viewed from different parts of the Earth's journey around the sun. These brightest stars, which are called first magnitude stars, should be among one's first star acquaintances, for they serve conveniently as guides to locate the other stars, which are also classified according to magnitudes. The second, third, fourth, and lesser magnitudes are each progressively 2.5 times lower in the scale of brightness. The smallest stars discernible to the unaided eye of ordinary vision are stars of the 5th magnitude, although a sharp eye can discern those of the 6th and even of the 7th magnitude. All below this are telescopic stars with a 60-inch reflector, 219,000 stars are visible. 219 million stars are visible. The Mount Wilson 101-inch telescope brings the number up to 319 million. Stars are most dense in the region of the heavens called the Milky Way. Sir William Herschel observed 116,000 go past the field of his telescope in a quarter of an hour while directed at the densest part of the Milky Way. This vast collection of stars differ not only in brightness but also in color. The colors of the stars are brought out most vividly in the telescope if the observer knows just where to look for those which are the most pronounced. Some of the large stars are characterized by the most exquisite coloring, which is sometimes further enhanced, as a glass will reveal, by a charming companion of a flamboyant or a delicate hue. Some of these companions are green, blue, orange, purple, gray, maroon, and other colors, but such gaiety is the exception rather than the rule. About 3/4 of the stars are white or bluish-white, and nearly 1/4 of them are varying shades of yellow. The star Arcturus is one of the deepest shade of yellow, while the star Spica is so exceedingly white that poets and writers from the earliest times have spoken of the purity of its rays. Although every star visible to the unaided eye may be identified by a Greek letter or number, most of the brightest stars have individual names. These individual names were given by the Arabian astronomers who nurtured astronomy through the Dark Ages when this science was almost forgotten by the rest of the world. These odd names have a certain appeal, and many of them possess rippling musical qualities which add to the plain word as twinkles add to the star. It is a pleasure to say capella or Antares when we see the gleam of the shepherd's star, or the glow on the heart of the scorpion, or to call such jewels as shine on Orion's belt, Mintaka, Al-Nilam, and Al-Nitak. After the introduction, one naturally takes a particular interest in Capella, or Antares, or Mintaka, or Al-Nilam, and continues to refer to it familiarly by name. Each star not only attains a certain charm and individuality by having its own particular name, number, magnitude, color, and pathway, but it also forms a part of a highly interesting group called a constellation. On a clear night, points of starlight seem to fairly fill the sky, yet it will be found on careful examination that the brightest of them often seem to be assembled together in a very picturesque manner, forming the outlines of figures such as the dippers, the crown, the cross, the sickle, or the lyre. Since these designs unfailingly deck the heaven's dome at the same place, hour, and season each year, there is not the hopeless confusion among the stars that the novice might think from his occasional glances at the sky. These star groups or constellations were probably first noted and named in Chaldea, where the ancient shepherds amused themselves by tracing their heroes among the stars. One can well imagine the hold that these dream pictures would have on a lonely shepherd as he wandered about the solitudes of the hills and gazed through the quietness of the night at the distant stars. For long ages these stories were told by one shepherd to another, and so vivid were their fancies and so keenly were they enjoyed that they made an indelible impress upon the folklore of other nations, and in this manner have been carried down to the present day. These stars are self-luminous, like our sun. Indeed, the stars are distant suns, and the sun is a nearby star. While the exception of the star or sun around which the Earth and other planets of our solar system whirl, all the other suns are so immensely remote from the Earth that their huge diameters dwindle to a mere twinkle of light. The diameters of some of the stars have been measured and have been found to vary from a few thousand miles to many million miles. Our sun, a most medium-sized star, has also been measured and has a diameter of 866,000 866,000 miles. 866,000 miles. This diameter, as seen from any other system of planets, would also dwindle to a twinkle, and our great sun would thus be lost among the other stars. Throughout the sky are young stars, adult stars, and stars whose light has almost flickered out. For stars, we find, even as all other things in nature, have a limited span of life. This life may last for untold ages, but as surely as stars are formed, so do they die. The nucleus of a star is formed by gas under high pressure. This gas is gathered together by the force of gravity and gradually condensed into a glowing ball. In contracting, the stars at first rise in temperature, but when too advanced, condensation retards this contraction. Then the star gradually cools. Recent studies have revealed the fact that stars when young are huge and red. This early stage is called the giant stage. Antares, Betelgeuse, Arcturus, and Aldebaran are examples of stars at the beginning of their careers. The giant red stars are gaseous throughout and of enormous volume. Antares, the youngest and by far the largest of the four named above, being 400 million miles in diameter. The bluish stars are the hottest stars. A red tinge indicates comparative coolness, whether the star is young or old. The blue stars are in the prime of life, intensely hot and brilliant, and glow with a temperature of perhaps 10,000 degrees at their luminous surfaces. With a gradual rise and fall of temperature, stars burn even as earthly flames through a continuous series of colors. Generally speaking, red, yellow, blue, yellow, red, all of which bear a special meaning to an astronomer. The yellow stars, like our sun, are middle-aged. The dwarf red stars, old, like a dying ember. After a star has expended its heat, if it does not in the meantime meet with some accident, it becomes a darkened, lifeless, and cold, surfaced globe. The material believed to condense into great hot stars is scattered about in various sections of the sky. This material has somewhat the appearance of a summer day cloud, or an illuminated daub of paint, occasionally as shapeless as a pinch of cotton. However, these objects, called nebula, have as a rule a definite form, the most common being the spiral, the ring, and the planetary. These terms also being the descriptive names of such nebula. But most of the nebula are not for ordinary folk to see, for they lie at such vast distances that they are only visible in a large telescope. Sometimes stars are disclosed enmeshed in nebulous folds, or again the nebula is seemingly sprinkled with the gold of stars, and there is one object of this kind that every amateur may locate. This is the great nebula of Orion, which stretches over the whole of the huge constellation of Orion, but is concentrated at the star at the center of the sword, which swings from the giant's belt. I never gazed upon it, but I dreamt of some vast charm concluded in that star to make fame nothing. Tennyson. The nebula of Orion may be seen in the south in the wintertime with a comparatively small telescope. With a large telescope, it is one of the most beautiful and awe-inspiring sights in all the sky. One theory of the life cycle of a star has it born of nebulous vapor and dead as a tiny shrunken old sun. And thus the order of evolution would be from nebula to extinct stars. But some astronomers believe that stars may change back to nebula, thus forming a universe having no beginning and no end. The Earth travels in a long journey around the sun. This was surmised by Copernicus in 1530 and proved by Kepler and Galileo about 1610. Before this, the Earth was supposed to be the center about which the universe moved. The star scenes along this tremendous journey, which covers 576 million miles, and requires a year to complete, vary with the seasons of the year. Yet year after year, as we retrace the same path, the same familiar stars shine in the same familiar groups, each appearing in its set position in the east, and at the same time, each season. Viewed through the window of the Earth's cold and icy atmosphere, the stars seen during the winter part of the journey seem to scintillate with particular brilliancy. Since we are then passing by the most colorful stars and the most spectacular star groups, the gorgeousness of these scenes is unequaled. During the summer, the stars are more demure and tranquil in their light, but their soft fires gleam with the gold of romance, which the ancient people cast about them in journeys of the past. After once recognizing a few of these constellations or beholding through a telescope the glories of a double star or the face of a distant world, one will never again fail through indifference to raise his eyes to the heavens. There is one thing certain. If all the wondrous phenomena of visible stars could be seen on but one of the nights of our long ride about the sun, the civilized world would spend its last cent on glasses and sit up until dawn to feast its eyes on the sublimity of the spectacle.